The Hidden London Hangouts are born out of the Hidden London Tour programme.
But how do you decide whether a space like this is actually suitable for the public to tour?
Well, let's find out at Charing Cross Station.
Greetings everybody, welcome to another Hidden London Hangout with a bit of a difference today, because normally we go into stations that there's no chance of you going to, but today we're taking a little look under the bonnet of a station where you can go right now and explore for yourself and get your hands dirty. I don't do this on my own. I've got three wonderful folk from the London Transport Museum who actually organise these tours and make it all happen for us. First of all, Chris Nix, what a lovely day at Charing Cross we had.
Hello, as usual, beautiful sunny day, and we chose to celebrate that by going down into a tunnel. Excellent.
Gorgeous, isn't it? Troglodytes, I believe, is the name for a cave dweller, City Holloway.
Yes, and we are very much bordering on being troglodytes these days, as we are constantly underground, even in the lovely weather, which, to be fair, it is cooler down below, as you might remember from the posters that we all like.
For many years, I would agree. And Laura Hilton-Brown, you are looking incredibly sunny. In fact, far, far too well dressed to be down a dirty tube station.
Well, on my days where I'm not underground, it's nice to not have to wear dark colours so that the dust doesn't just kind of, cover you from head to foot. It was actually nice. Sidney and I weren't at Charing Cross yesterday. We were at a different station. And it was actually really nice to be cooler in the tunnels. I know not all of the tunnels are always as cool as we had yesterday. But it was nice because of the heat above ground to be below ground. So I actually quite enjoyed it. But when people ask what I do for the first time when we meet, I always say that it's totally fine to work on this project during the winter, because it's kind of cold and dark and wet above ground anyway. But in the summer, it is quite strange because you do emerge and it's like, God, it's actually sunlight and it's really warm and you haven't kind of experienced that. So it is quite strange sometimes, but a little quirky.
I love it. This is part one of a two-part companion episode, effectively. The first one today is all about a tour that you can do right now. The other one that was filmed yesterday as well is with our gorgeous girls, a whole new tour, which is coming down the pipes very, very soon, or rather down the train tunnel, maybe. But today we're off to Charing Cross and we want to teach you a little bit of something, but we also want to show you the back steps to how these tours come about. So first of all, Chris and I met in a very, very familiar part of central London. Do you know, I could murder an ice cream.
Do you know, I wonder why that is. I've got the oddest feeling my flies are low.
This is brilliant. Okay, why have you brought me to the top corner of Trafalgar Square?
Well, we're near Charing Cross Station, which, if you remember, was the place 3 years ago we popped our touring cherry together. Yes.
We're droning on. We're droning on. But we are here. There's obviously a reason for it. Tell me why.
Well, this part of the square was used to construct that Jubilee line station when it was first built, and they used the Sainsbury wing of the National Gallery. That area used to be a bomb site, and in the 1970s it became the building site for the station all the way over there.
So what is beneath our feet now?
Well, obviously there was a connection, so we should go down and have a look.
Let's do it. Now, how are we going to get down there? Because we normally do a little gimmick. So what should we do today?
We could walk through a square, but it's a bit busy. So should we use teleport shimmer today?
Shall we?
Let's
do it.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa. Hot up there, cool down here.
No need for the ice cream down here, is there?
I still enjoy that, actually. But look at this place. I mean, it's under London. It's so busy up there. It's silent down here.
It's properly hidden London, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
And it's sonorous space. You can just hear the echo, and if we...
It's just incredible. And of course, the amount of distance. That way is the station, and it's on a hill.
I know you always love these long tunnels, but
yes.
What you have to remember is that's going all the way from underneath the fourth plinth, all the way across the square to Charing Cross, all the way across Trafalgar Square.
It's incredible. And that hill, presumably because something was going on here when this was being tunnelled?
Well, yeah, this is the construction tunnel. So you've got spoil being dug out of the ground to create the new station and brought through here, past us, past that now concreted up wall there, and underneath that site where the Sainsbury wing now is, to be taken out by crane. Well, rather than you using barrows, put a little railway in, and that's what they did. So they had a little loco, narrow gauge track just laid on the floor, And it meant that you take the empty trucks up and gravity would help bring them down on that incline, ready to be taken out when they were full.
It's incredible, isn't it? And of course, the things that you get me and the girls doing when we're doing the hidden London Hangouts, sometimes it's a little bit scary. It's not scary down here, it's absolutely fine. But there is that little bit of intrepid exploring that you can feel, even in this sort of controlled space.
I think you're absolutely right. You know you're in a raw hidden place here, and you've got these raw cast iron finish there of the tunnel, concrete there. You've got drips from the ceiling. You've got these calthamite straws just hanging down in the background. So yeah, it's characterful, isn't it?
It's beautiful. One quick question. Those metal tunnel rings,
Yes.
they were leftovers, weren't they?
They were. You can find out on the tour where they were left over from.
Love it. Listen, let's go up there.
Let's.
We've got a station to
We've
look
got
at.
the
You've got the key
keys.
and I've got the secret. Well, you've got the secrets as well. Just seriously, look at the length.
Do you know this tunnel's quite kinky? When you get to the end, it shimmies round because it's trying to miss the foundations of a rather notable feature in Trafalgar Square.
Tell me on the tour.
It's just very strange walking on a static escalator, isn't it? You really do have to hold on while your brain gets used to it.
Am I allowed to stand on the left on this one? Is that right?
Well, if you'd have been here, 23 years ago? No, but since you're here today, yeah, absolutely.
Weird you say that, because I was here 23 years ago and 25 years ago, because I used to use this station, the Jubilee line. I used to live in Willesden Green and come to King's College, which was on the Strand. So every day I'd use these escalators. It's so bizarre being back. Now, we were talking about, what is it that turns places like this into tour locations? What are the things that go through your mind?
Well, first,
Customer information,
it still works!
folding and unfolding e-scooters and e-unicycles are prohibited on all of TfL's premises and services. Thank you.
Hide the unicycle.
Spooky when they buzz when they're on.
So,
what are the things that
The things that we look for when we're doing a tour? One, is it an interesting space? Well, yes. So definitely that. And two, from the safety point of view, what do we have to do to the site? Because it's obviously no longer used. Has it deteriorated? Do we need to repair things? Do we need to mark things? Do we need to bring things up to the modern standards? But also, simple thing like, is there a second way out of here for emergency escape? The answer here is yes. So the way we just came in, and then over the other side, there's the doors back out at the Bakerloo line.
And of course, the difference between now and when this was in use is they built a wall here with two doors. So it's obviously a secure location as well. That must be one of the other things.
It is, yeah. So not compromising site security is another big thing for us. But yeah, whoever built that wall, we're very, very happy they did, because it just means that this is effectively a separate part of the station, and it's one of the reasons it can be used for filming.
Services operating on all London Underground
It's good to know.
lines.
I just love the weirdness of all of this. Now, one of the other things that I love about this location is that, even if no one ever told me the story of it, it's so photogenic. Every time I come here, there's a million photographs I want to take, and today is one of those days as well. So, can we go down?
Definitely. Let's go and see what else we did to make it a
So
tour.
excited. I can't believe this was the first place we went.
I know.
That's where the friendship started, really.
Good place to start.
I love this place so much. So we have disused platforms, no ceiling, because of course that was taken out, wasn't it?
It was.
Because it needed to be done for fire.
That's
purposes,
right.
didn't
It's
it?
after the
Fire
King's
protection.
Cross fire that was taken down.
It gets me every time, the signs. Down that way,
Yep,
towards Temple,
that's right.
and it runs quite a long way, doesn't
It does. Goes a long way under the Strand and then stops abruptly, doesn't connect any further.
That way, Green Park.
That's right, yeah.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
And one of the things about this space is you've got some of the original features that survive, like these big bright yellow bits which mark where the entrance and exits are. And you've also got lots of new features in here which have been tested out, and we show people what those are when we're here on the tour. The other thing which I like about it is if you look at the posters, you'll see that they look real, but they're here for filming. So they kind of look like their books or look like their films, but they're ones that you haven't ever actually seen. And I think there's actually one that might even be advertising a very affordable break in your flat over there in a sunny destination.
Isn't it interesting as well that this station was obviously built in 79. It was taken out of service in 1999. We've just opened the Elizabeth line with its huge amounts of yellow everywhere. And look, as you said,
it's very
everywhere
Canary
you look,
Wharf, isn't it?
it's so Canary Wharf. And this is 79 to 2022. That yellow, emergency yellow, has been around for years, hasn't it?
It has. And one of the reasons I have a real soft spot for this station in my heart is that it was the first one that we added as a new tour to the list of tours that we did back in the 90s. So the museum's been doing tours ever since the very early 90s. They were very popular, and there was always more demand than our curators could cope with for taking people around places like Down Street and Aldwych. So when we set up Hidden London, that was an expansion of our programme. We hadn't done tours for many years due to both security concerns and also the Underground just concentrating on rebuilding itself when TfL was first formed. So for a long time we couldn't run tours. We got to do Aldwych again when you first came on a tour to Aldwych.
That picture is from 2010. We must show this in the studio. And that was when you opened up Aldwych, and I was a guest. I paid guest.
That was Laura who made that happen.
Amazing.
And from that, we were then able to get the Underground to say, well, you clearly know what you've been doing. You've been doing these things for decades. Yes, you can do more. And so this was the first one. So Siddy, Laura, and I worked on this one. There was one bit of it.
How life turns out. Isn't that weird?
Well, there's one bit of it which isn't like this at all. And I thought, when I came round here, I thought, well, I know this exists, but I don't know if we'll be able to make it suitable for a tour. But we did. Should we go and have a look at it?
Yes.
Because the thing I really love about Hidden London is that bit where you walk up to the anonymous door and you have the key and you get to go in.
And the weird thing about it is the public are just streaming past this, not having a clue where we're headed.
And it's so fun to be able to take audiences in. We one of the reasons that we have branded Hidden London high-vis is because people would often ask, how do I get to go in there when they saw you going in? So very quickly we got these done. Now, worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. And this is a massively long corridor, isn't it? It runs parallel to the public's corridor. That way, if memory serves me correctly, is a view of the Northern Line.
Correct.
And that way is a massive ventilation shaft.
It is, and that leads to the Jubilee Line platforms that we were on earlier. But we had to do an awful lot to be able to get into this space. When I first came around here, I was like, oh, I so want to be able to bring the tour here, but I can imagine there's all sorts of issues because this was built as a ventilation shaft, not as a customer corridor. So first thing, we look at the floor. Yeah. And you can see we've got these yellow painted edges on the steps. We had to do those to increase visibility and reduce the risk of people falling. The thing that you've got on, the bump cap, we had commissioned because we've got things hanging down. Now, importantly, not a hard hat, because you're more likely to catch yourself because they stand up. But a bump cap, because we're not protecting from things falling here. It's about you bumping into things. So a bit like a mechanic might wear.
I was going to say, because I must admit, I'll just take it off for a second. It's actually got a really hard shell, hasn't it? That's why they call it a bump cap. Because we've had questions about that, haven't we?
It's not a baseball cap. Sometimes people have said, oh, well, why aren't you wearing head protection there? Well, actually we are. This is the right head protection for in here.
And of course you've got those as well, the hooks where the pipes are.
Yeah, so all of these hangers for the pipes, we had to have all of those painted as well. A yellow line to create that exclusion zone so that people weren't trying to walk too close to it. Because we're in an unfamiliar environment here. So we obviously have to brief people before they go into these spaces as an audience, and we've also made sure that the hazards are marked up. We even had to do a bit of concrete work in here, pay to have barriers installed, so it's not a question of getting the keys and just bringing people in. There's many thousands of pounds worth of investment in the site before we could make it suitable for tour.
What I think is really lovely is how every time I come here there's a new thing I discover. You must have been here, how many times do you think you've been to Charing Cross and looked around this place?
Honestly, I've lost count because I've known this site for at least 23 years now.
Do you ever get bored coming back?
No, I don't. I'm not a person who easily gets bored because I always try and find something new in a place when I come here. And genuinely, I'll look around this space and spot something that I've not seen before, like that glove that's just randomly ended up on the top, and we'll wonder how did that glove get there. So yeah, I think you make your own fun with it, and this space is so impressive. As you say, that end. You're looking down from above onto the Northern Line, and can you feel that hot air coming forward? And we had that cold rush just now. Unless you come here, you don't get that experience of what it is like to be here.
It's fascinating though, because it's a bit like the anatomy of a tube station stripped out. But you know, you were talking about the entertainment. You talk about the Northern Line. The funniest thing happened. If you turn round and you'll see on the back of his hivers, it says Hidden London. On the back of mine, this was a gift, if you remember. Previous episode, one of our lovely sort of helpers on the system gave me a birthday hivers, right? And mine says Underground. My fun was there are two people from Gdansk in Poland who got lost. And they were just out there a minute ago, and I actually showed them to their train to get them onto the Northern Line, to get the Elizabeth line.
You're wearing the one that's going to get all the inquiries.
I really love it. I love being helpful.
As a special treat,
Yes.
should we go and have a look at the Craven Street
Yeah,
shaft
I'd love
finish?
to actually, yeah.
Okay,
I'd love to.
Let's go.
Oh, there it is again.
We timed that one well. Well, it was worth making it possible, wasn't
Ooh, hello. That's a long way.
it? It's a long
that's
way down
up.
and up.
Crikey. Do you know, you did not bring me some quite impressive shafts. That's incredible. Now, what was this?
So this was made specifically as a ventilation shaft because down there, down the ladder, which is unsafe and we can't use, that takes you all the way back to one of the Jubilee Line platforms.
Right.
So you can feel all that air
heat.
rushing from the Northern Line and disappearing up there. You've got these big ducts next to you which are bringing fresh air in and blasting them down to the platform. And yeah, it is literally awesome, isn't it?
Oh, it's
Puts
stunning.
you in a state
and
of
you know,
awe.
it's so true because if you, I've got short sleeves on today. If I do that,
Yeah.
the air is warm.
Yeah?
The air coming through there. Because what you can't see, obviously, is there's a bendy tunnel that goes round and down, isn't
We'll
there?
show you now.
Yeah. And that carries on going, but also right up there is fresh air. So it's a chimney.
It's effectively a chimney. It's using the stack effect. Hot air rises, and so that wants to sort of passively rise out of the chimney. And that means if you can pump some cold air in alongside it to replace it, and of course the trains as well with the piston effect are moving the air around, it just means that hot air goes out here and cool air is drawn in.
I love this place and I learn something new every time I come here. I always thought this was an old lift shaft that had been repurposed, like in so many stations,
Yep.
but this was actually done for the sole purpose of getting rid of hot air.
It was, and
Good job we're standing here.
you beat,
To
me,
beat
you beat
you.
me to the punch. And you can tell because the tunnel lining rings have got the date in the early 70s when this was being built. So you've got a mixture of early 70s dates over there. But again, it's a place that until you've stood on this mesh platform, dangling over that impressive drop and looking up at that, you haven't experienced it, have you? So you've done it.
And the really weird thing about it is, you know, if you watch these episodes normally, you'll know I'm not a particularly daring person, right? I've not felt in any way scared anywhere because it's actually the feeling that you have when you visit these spaces is wonderment and luck for being here because we shouldn't be here. There's locks on all of these doors and one bunch of keys gets you anywhere.
That's it. And, you know, exploration is what Hidden London's all about. So should we go off and see where
Oh
else
my
we can
goodness,
explore?
yeah. Just imagine, I'm so lucky. My Bezzy mate has got a key for all these places. Wonderful. See, every time I go there, I learn something new. I never realised that the Craven Street shaft was there as a chimney. I thought it was a lift shaft. The things you learn, City Holloway, I'm still learning all these years on.
I know, but there's just so much behind the scenes that people don't really realise is there that makes the underground work, right? I mean, it's pretty much all we talk about, but just seeing it in the flesh, I feel like going there, standing there in those spaces is such a different experience than seeing it on photographs or even seeing it on TV because it's so visceral, right? The dust, the wind, all of the push and pull does feel kind of magical and definitely like slightly off limits.
And I know you're such an intrepid explorer, Sid, and I've got to ask you this because I asked Chris on the tape. Do you ever get bored going to these places time and time again? I don't think I've got the ability to be bored in these places because I spot something new and learn something new every time I go.
I think I do too, to be honest. I don't think there's ever, well, if you're delivering tours, I feel like there's no chance to be bored because you find something new with each group that you take around, because you're always trying to tailor your delivery to the people you're talking to. So every different group is always a different experience, different tour. You emphasize different things and you read what they're interested in and what they aren't. And you know, you have different kind of takes on things. But there's sometimes when I go into some of these spaces that I feel that I get maybe sometimes a little bit jaded. I've just seen them, so you've seen bits of them so many times. And when I feel myself kind of slipping into that mode, I try to like refocus my attention and really focus on details around me. So try to start scanning about, you know, what are we seeing in the tunnel lining rings? What have I not looked on maybe on the floor? And kind of trigger my brain into starting to do that exploration hunting for clues again. And I always find something new.
I adore it. And I'm sure Siddy won't mind me saying, but both she and I have got very short attention spans. Whenever we go on these filming episodes, the most important thing is get in, get on and get out. Most important, get it done and get gone. Because then we can make good telly and we can go somewhere else. It's really, really cool. But Laura, the thing about you is that you're all about the detail. And I love the fact that when you go into these places, you spot stuff that we don't. Cast your mind back to the first time you went to Charing Cross, the very first time. What was the thing that really struck you about being there?
Do you know what? That's a really, really interesting question, because back in the day when we put on the first 3 tours for Hidden London, which were Clapham South, Deep Lake Shelter, Down Street and Charing Cross, they were our that was our first programme. And with Charing Cross, when we were doing all of the site wrecking and the plans before it came to fruition, we went and did a site visit, and Mr. Nixon convinced you were with us on this day. We saw the Jubilee Line concourse, and this was the area that was going to be the tour. And whilst that area is fabulous and has lots of amazing design, engineering and film connections, it was a little bit flat for me. And we needed something to lift the tour slightly. And I can't remember, awful memory, how it came about. It was probably Chris suggesting that we went to see these places. But we were like, hang on, we've got the keys. Chris knows the station really well. And we found the construction tunnel and the vent shaft. And although logistically, operationally and health and safety wise, they're a nightmare to go into, I was like, that's it. There are additional sections of this tour to make it the tour that it is. And I'm not taking anything away from the Jubilee Concourse, because that is where we start the tour and that's where we set the scene. And it's a huge chunk and part of the tour and very important as well. But it was the other 2 sections that really lifted it for me and the others. And that's when we knew we had the tour. And when we deliver it, I mean, Sid, you guided it last week. I was with you being the delivery team, and you were guiding because we had to go down and be part of the tour. And it was really nice to be back on site, because Siddy and I are so much kind of behind the scenes now. But, you know, when we started out, we did a lot more delivery. But it was really great to see the audience wow moments. And it's definitely the film clip. It's definitely the skyfall in the vent shaft. And it's definitely working out where they're stood when they've walked into the construction tunnel at the end. And it's such a lovely kind of gasp of breath moment for the audience that it still makes us smile. And Siddy was delivering some of those points, and I could see that she was feeding off the audience, being really pleased about being in those areas as well. So yes, there's a phrase that Siddy and I use called site fatigue, where sometimes you have spent a really long time there, but if you break it up with the other sites, then it vanishes and it goes away. So yeah, casting my mind back, answering your question to the very first moment, it was the 3 sections coming together that was the big wow moment for me.
I love it. And you know, the really funny thing about that place, it has a real special place in my heart, because it's the very first place that Chris took me when we became friends. It was literally the very first place. Let's go there. Let's have a look at Holborn Station, the disused platform there. One night, I went to Charing Cross and Holborn Kingsway and had pizza and Prosecco, all with Nixie. But the other thing I really love about that place is that I used to use it. So it's a part of my own life that has become almost a museum piece now. So I feel comforted when I'm there, but also I feel excited when I go to places like the chimney, the big vent shaft, and look down over the Northern Eye. And I'm not giving away anything. When you look down, we saw something yesterday, didn't we, Nixie, on the platform we're not allowed to talk about because somebody was being a bit ick.
That is the thing, when you're inside looking out and people don't know that you're there, they might have some bad personal habits, which you have to
Oh,
remove.
no!
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh
indeed.
my God.
Like somebody diving in for a scratch or something.
It was
We'll
something.
draw a veil over it. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, let's
but
just
it meant
say
that we had to sit there waiting for another train to go by. Or
let's-
two, actually, before they
as
went.
we filmed. Just remember, doesn't matter when you're on any platform, you might be being watched, and it won't just be CCTV. There are grills, and above those grills are ventilation tunnels. People go in them and they can look through them. We can see you guys. We can see
Can you imagine though? Who's going to expect they're going to see you two popping up like the grill?
A lot more people now after we've said this.
Do you know, you
Well,
know
yeah,
that thing though?
true.
You know, I always get told off whenever I'm on a tour site for something. Chris always tells me off for something. You know what my latest trick was? When I was on the looking out over the Northern Line, I said to Chris, "Can I shout? Let me out!" Is
Chris
it possible?
properly said no, you
No.
cannot.
He
Indeed,
said, no!
as I don't want to be dealing with all the complaints when somebody takes it seriously.
So apparently I'm not allowed to do that, but it was so much fun. And the thing about this is, the reason why we wanted to show you this is why it's safe. This is why it's safe to do these tours. But also, you think it looks fun on television, go and have a look for yourself. And then you can get the dirt under your nails. And then you can experience those feelings that make this the best job in the world. Because we get to be able to show these things to you, and it's so much fun. Guy, first of all, Chris, thank you so much for letting me have another look round. It was a bit like 3 years later, it was a bit like mandate number 1 over again.
Well, it was nice to go and reminisce. And for me, this is kind of one of the origin stories for Hidden London tours. So as Laura said, taking it from a place that I was privileged enough to be able to go wherever I wanted within safe reason, to working out what was the limit of where it was safe to take people on tours was a really interesting thing to do. There's one photo which I think I should show, which shows the limit of that.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah, it was lovely to be able to go back through memory lane and reminisce about not only taking you there, but also how we brought the tour about. I just wanted to share this photo, which shows several years before we started the tours, when we were thinking about where we could take people and the limit of where it's possible to go. And we finished our film on that platform with that ladder, which we explained is no longer fit for use. And we did consider years and years before whether it was possible to take people on a tour down there. You can see why. It was a pretty short conversation, and we decided pretty quickly, no, we couldn't take people down there.
It reminds me actually, you know, and City will know exactly the point that I'm talking about. At Euston Station, there is a place that Chris took me to, which is not part of the tour. Don't worry, it's not an unsafe place to go, but it's not part of the tour. And it is like a scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I'm sure, City, you've been down there as well. Even I thought, this is madness that I'm doing this. Madness.
Yeah, well, you know, funnily enough, the picture that Chris is showing now is the one part of Charing Cross I've never been to, because the stairs was decommissioned for use even before I joined Hidden London. So I have actually never been to the bottom of that shaft. One of the few places in Hidden London that I have not been to. But the one you're talking about at Euston, yes, is part of the old, the Charing Cross side of the Northern Line. It is completely, I mean, the first time we ever went in there, we went in full covered Tyvek suits, because it was so completely grimy. That part had been closed since 1914. I mean, it had been tidied up a little bit probably when we went back there. It was properly uncomfortable back then. And yeah, it was one of those things that you go, you couldn't.
You couldn't.
It's just no way. I mean, yeah, the thing is, there's a fine line between being able to take people into something that's a little risky, but we've done all of the health and safety and the risk assessments and all of that, and taking people into something that really you ought to be an employee of.
Certifiable for going down there, to be honest.
And
I mean, I was wearing a boob tube and white linen trousers, to be honest. So
oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It was not going to happen, but a beautiful, beautiful photograph. And Laura, I have to say, by the way, thank you so much for inspiring me all those years ago, because I didn't realise that 2010, when you guys all opened up Aldwych Station for the Blitz show, much of that was down to you. So thank you for lighting the fire underneath my love for all this.
Oh, there was such an exceptional team that pulled that event together. It was something that was the idea was crazy. It was way over there. And it just kind of, it melted down slightly to the event that it then became, which was amazing. But often you have this great idea, but these spaces, they have restrictions and they have limits. So it's difficult to put the event that you first think of on. But how crazy that our paths crossed all those years ago at that event. It was such a fabulous one to put on. And I remember it so very vividly. And I remember sitting down, kind of storyboarding the idea with the GLA and loads of members of LTM as well. And it was, for me, it was, what's the intellectual reaction to this going to be? What are people going to learn? And what are people going to, what knowledge is going to be new that they're going to take away from this event? And then what's the emotional reaction? How are people going to feel? What's this experience, how is that experience going to make them feel, and what are they going to take away? When you walk away from an event and you've got some adrenaline, it's something new that you've not been to, and London is abundant with experiences and amazing ones as well. So it's like, how can we make this different? How can this be the standout event we want it to be? And I really hope that people left with both of those reactions, because that was really important for us.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, what you're looking at on the TV at the moment is Aldwych platform. And back in 2010, they hauled that 1938 stock train that now sits in the London Transport Museum's depot in Acton into the platform, and they put actors on it. They put a bus above ground. It was fantastic. Thank you, Laura.
I feel like that picture doesn't massively justify the event, though. It looks that picture looked a little bit dull compared to what the actual event was. 2010,
I was probably taking it on a box brownie back then, to be honest. There's the bus.
The photo that I particularly like, though, is the photo of a younger Grundon getting his geek on the bus.
How did you get in the bus?
Oh, this looks like
a bit of a smolder going on there, eh?
This looks like it could be like I don't know, an agony aunt, like Ask Alex Anything.
Really? Well,
so I was going album cover.
Yeah, don't ask him about the peroxide in his hair. That's the first thing. Heavens above.
Ballads of Grundon.
Ballads of Grundon. We should make that album happen.
Absolutely.
Alex, do you remember that event? What was your favorite? What was your takeaway from it? What was your kind of moment of this is really cool?
Do you know, truthfully, it's the same as everything I do for the London Transport Museum. It is total privilege of access. And the minute I walked in, I thought, I'm not meant to be here, and I'm lucky to be here. And I walked around, I learnt stuff, I absorbed it all, fell in love with the tube all over again, and look at where we are now. That was what I took from it. So it wasn't just about a trip into Aldwych Station, which is fantastic, and there will be tours on that soon as well. It was more about the fact that I was allowed somewhere that I wasn't meant to go. And I think that is exactly what your whole series is all about, really. I love it. Siddles, thank you so much as always.
Thank you, guys. Very lovely to see you exploring Charing Cross.
And Nixie, back next week with somewhere equally fabulous.
Indeed so. And if you want to know more about the history of the station, then either go on the tour or watch our original hangout on the station from season 1, or indeed do both. I've got one last little thing, old friend to show you, Alex, from that first series when we talked about other things that you might see on the platform at Charing Cross. Would you like to see?
Oh yeah, go on.
What's this called?
Oh, the grinder train.
That's right.
Isn't that fantastic?
Depending on when you go in there, you get to see different trains occasionally in the station. Sometimes there's nothing.
It was an OJ's song, wasn't it? Grinder train.
Was it? I'm not familiar with that work.
People all over the world join the grinder train.
We should cover that.
If you're very lucky and you hear a train come along, you might hear a bit of flange squeal as well, which is rather lovely.
Not if one of those has been along and cleaned the track up.
There you go, something for everybody there. As always, thank you very much indeed for watching. If you want to find us on Instagram, it's Alex Grunton, Chris Nix, City Holloway, Hidden London Law, and at LT Museum. You found us on YouTube as well. Thank you so very much. Like, subscribe, and comment down below. And we'll be back somewhere really cool next week. In the meantime, have yourself a great day and stay safe.